All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Adam Fritz, CEO of Pozotron, and welcome to the latest Pozotron Spotlight Series with GeorgeThe.Tech. George, thank you very much for joining us today.
Hey, thanks for inviting me on. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, to start, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, well, my real name is George Whittam, and I'm originally from Pennsylvania, near the Philadelphia area. And I grew up there studying music mostly. Actually, I have a music degree from Virginia Tech. So I have a music background. And while at Virginia Tech, I also studied communications, media production, and audio technology. So I had a very kind of diverse background in audio. I also spent years in studios doing live sound events, moved to LA, started doing film production sound, and I tried really a bit of everything. And eventually, voiceover is really what stuck after getting a few key clients that referred to me who made it clear that this should be something that you need to be doing. You need to focus on voiceover because nobody else is doing this and we need you. So it's like, okay, I'm going to drop everything else. I'm going to sell my film production sound gear and just focus on this business. And that's what I've been doing since 2005, I think, is when I really got serious about it. And the branding has changed a few times over the years. But since 2017, we've been known as GeorgeThe.Tech. And I say we because we're a team of technicians that we consider to be performer friendly techs, people that work really well with performers of all kinds, voiceover actors, narrators, podcasters, and other types of performers that rely on a home studio.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Could you share a bit more about your background? And you've already kind of answered this, but
Hmm.
can you share a bit more about your background in technology and where it all started and how you've gotten to be really one of the leaders in technology for voiceover and narration?
Yeah, well, with the variety of things I was doing, I was trying to find. I didn't know it yet, probably, but I was trying to find a niche in a field that was going to be a business that I could grow. And so when I was introduced to voice actors through various channels, mainly through radio broadcasts, that was a whole, I didn't even mention that. I was a broadcast engineer for a major radio station in Philadelphia that covered the Eagles football games for a few years. So I was at all the games, running the sound from the booth, dealing with ISDN technology, which became a staple of voiceover studios for many years until a couple of years ago, really. And so I became very familiar with all these different elements of the technology that was used in voiceover studios for many years. But the bottom line was really learning about how to make it sound great in a home environment. And oftentimes that home environment required being in a really small space, like a closet or a small isolation booth, where the quality of the audio was always a compromise once you put yourself into this small space. So I've spent years now trying to just get a great sounding recording when people are stuck in small spaces because they're trying to get rid of noise. And so that's been my focus now. And I've helped well over 4,000 people with various things from just checking the audio quality of their recording to designing the studio completely from the ground up, literally pouring a slab and building a building, um, and kind of everything in between. And so for me, the technology has always been a part of all of it, but more from the audio engineering side. But then making the audio engineering not intimidating for the performer and the actor or the audiobook narrator, whoever it is that has to self record, and make that as simple and straightforward as possible. So that's been a big goal, not just it's easy to geek out and we have fun talking gear and geeking out about equipment and comparing specifications of stuff. But at the end of the day, it has to sound good and it has to be easy to use. Otherwise, it will just get in the way.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's excellent information. How has all of your knowledge and your experience, how has that influenced your approach to narration and voiceover work in your career?
Yeah. So, I'm one of the few people in my business who doesn't actually do voiceover work myself, right? So what does that mean? It means that I've just been hyper focused on this role of being this technical advocate to the narrator and voice actor. And in doing so, having worked with so many different people, I've really gotten to understand what it is what it's like to be them and listening to their trouble. And in some cases, becoming very close with some of my clients and become friends with some of my clients. And just really, I've gotten to really understand what it is that works for a performer and what doesn't. So, like, in terms of like, my approach, I would say the approach is making sure the technology is always supporting what the end goal is, but never is there for technology's sake. And whenever the technology can get out of the way, that's great. Like if there's can be less gear or less stuff, that's great. Um, we're not running commercial recording studios. We're not trying to impress clients with a big, impressive rack of equipment, like all this stuff on my shelf behind me. That is not what an actor needs. They need the way to capture their audio cleanly, efficiently, reliably, with as few steps as possible. So they can get that audio produced and sent off to the client in whatever form they want. So, I mean, that's definitely influenced the way I work with people because I just want them to get a direct route to a solution. I don't want a lot of extraneous learning on the technical side. And I will always find ways that will avoid as much of the technical training as possible to the point where I will even building kind of like building blocks of their studio that I've done some of the technical work for them. So I kind of look at it as the heat and eat approach instead of the learning to make sausage approach. So there's no real good reason to learn all the finer points of audio engineering that I've spent 25 years learning and mastering when your job isn't that, your job is the performance. So I like to fill in all those gaps that they need to know with either knowledge where they need it or tools and techniques that I can build for them that solves the problem. Right. So I'm always an advocate for the performer. That's the key thing. I feel like that's what really influences my approach to the voice actors and the narrators. It's what it's all about.
Basically making the technology the easy part for narrators and voiceover actors, which is usually not the case. So
Yeah, and the easy part, what's easy for me can be very hard for them.
exactly.
And what's hard for me would be, I mean, if it takes me a while to learn it, I know it's going to be a massive struggle for them, right? So I'm using tools that I've learned either the easiest way possible, or I've learned to be efficient, or I've learned so well that I can teach it really effectively and efficiently. But those are the things that I look for. Yeah, I don't want them to be intimidated and super frustrated because so many more roles are now on the shoulders of the performer, of the actor. Uh, I mean, we all know about the home studio revolution. That's already happened, but there's more and more tasks being expected of the voice actor or the narrator in this climate where they are having to do more things, wear more hats, be producer, editor, engineer. It's a lot. So yeah, we need to take the frustration away from as much of that as we can. That's really important.
Yeah, that's fantastic. You've said the word learn a lot of times. I know you're a big supporter of continuous learning. Can you share some of the most important and useful resources that have been particularly helpful to you throughout your career?
Mm. Well, I learned through many different mediums. I definitely had a few books along the way that I would start with that was kind of helping me, be beyond obviously going to Virginia Tech where I went to school and actually studied audio and had a great basis. I learned from, some great books over the years, most of them pretty technical in nature, as you can imagine. I've learned through some of the more nowadays very common methodologies, which would be finding people who have tried or done things before me on things like YouTube, platforms like YouTube and other video streaming platforms, as a means to gather information. One way I learned a lot actually is I basically interned slash, you know, actually worked for other people to support them, and in doing so learned part of their trade or what they were doing. So I got to learn from them on the job. I will also, if somebody says, hey, so and so knows how to do X, I will try every way I can to learn from that person by having meetings with them, consulting with them, even hiring them to solve problems for me so that I can learn how they solved it. And, finding mentors in areas where, they are 25 years ahead of me and learning very specific skills has probably been one of my most powerful ways to advance, more quickly. Also spending times in professional forums that are like professional or very highly skilled people tend to congregate, and figuring out who in those areas are the experts and listening to those folks, right? Seeing where they get their information, seeing what ways I can communicate with them and learn from them more directly. So it's really a lot of different ways, even just listening to podcasts. For me, podcasts basically replaced magazines for me, where I used to get a lot of magazine subscriptions. Now I listen to a lot of podcasts. I'm on a few myself, and that's really where that's where I would say on the most ongoing basis, I learn the most by listening to shows like that. So yeah, it's a wide variety of ways.
That's fantastic. And with all of your experience, all of your knowledge, everything you've built up over time, specifically in regards to home studio setup, a huge portion of our customer base are individual narrators, many of whom are recording at home. What's the one piece of advice you'd give voice actors when it comes to setting up their home studio?
Yeah. I mean, I always start with acoustics because my analogy is that acoustics is for recording audio, that as lighting is for photography, right? So you're not going to get good image without good lighting. You're not going to get good audio without good acoustics. So I say that all the time, but I think more lately I've been talking more about ergonomics. So everything has to be in the right place, starting with the script or copy, because 99% of what people are doing at home in a home studio is reading somebody else's words. That's something I'm not good at. I'm not a good natural narrator reading script and reading it back. That's not one of my skill sets. And I haven't studied it. I'm much better at speaking extemporaneously like this. But that is key to having really good, consistent audio quality and recording technique. That is getting the script in the right place first, making sure it's at the right height, making sure it's easy to read at the right distance. Once you figure out where your script needs to be, now you know where you're looking. Now you know where it's natural, where you're not craning, bending your head, looking down or up too much. Once you figure that out, then everything else kind of works around it. So starting with script first, then figuring out where the microphone needs to be so it will still capture clean audio without at all obstructing your view of your script or getting in the way. This is such a huge confusion because people see stock photography, pictures of people in studios every day, all day long, where the microphone's right in front of the singer's or performer's face, or they're podcasters and the mic is right in front of them, or they're seeing all this stuff that's not in context with what real professional voice actors and narrators actually do. And they're using that as they're saying, well, that's what I see. That's what I see on these pictures and promotions and ads for microphones, et cetera, is just a lot of the inappropriately placed microphones. And so once your script is in the right place, then your microphone placement will become more apparent, because now it's not about the mic. It's actually about the script. That's your first thing. The mic is really secondary, but figuring out where to put it like on an arm, something like this. So the mic is up out of the way and your script is below or to the side is really, really key to having a good recording environment. So I think ergonomics is a big one. Got to be comfortable, and it's got to be something set up that's there consistently. So each time you do an audition or each time you do a recording, there's consistent sound quality, consistently, time and time again. That's what's going to get you a lot of repeat work.
That's great, and that's the kind of thing that I would imagine newbies to the industry probably don't think about. So that's fantastic advice. Thank you.
Yeah, when you're just learning, you're not so focused on that because you're just trying to get really basic things to even function. How do I get this microphone to even work? Why, when I hit record, is it recording not this microphone? Why does this microphone sound so terrible? It's a good mic, right? There's a lot of basic building blocks things people are going to be focused on. And then they might spend weeks or even months recording with a mic on a little tripod sitting on a stack of books or leaning over to the microphone to get their voice picked up. And that's just going to hinder you. And it's not like it's expensive. It's not expensive to set it up ergonomically at all. It's just something that's not prioritized. And again, it's just it's what people don't, people focus, they hyper focus on the microphone. Obviously, it's just the big thing that is, it's in the frame, it's what they see, it's what hears their voice. And so they hyper focus on the actual microphone when it's really all those things together that work together in concert.
That's all excellent, excellent information. Just the last two questions here. When it comes to your business, what are you most excited about in the near future?
Hmm. Well, my business, it's a multifaceted thing, specifically about GeorgeThe.Tech. I'm most excited about being able to support because we have a growing team of people here. We're not just me anymore. We are techs. We have a bunch of folks who specialize in a lot of different areas. I'm very much a jack of all trades, and I've learned I know that word comes up a lot. I have learned that I don't necessarily want to learn a lot of new things. So I bring in folks who have learned certain things and are really good at those things and have them supplement my knowledge. So we have ways that you can book services with all these different folks. But I feel like we are as a company still scratching the surface because by and large, everybody is basically only English speaking. We have one person on our team who is trilingual, and our goals are to definitely be able to reach a larger audience in multiple languages and support more people. That's a really, really big goal. My partner, she speaks English as a second language. So I'm much more sensitive to folks that speak other languages. So I really just want to support them. And, we have this great tool set. We have this great website and a whole booking system, a lot of great services and knowledge. And there's millions of people out there that don't know about it yet that could benefit from it. So yeah, I think that's what I'm excited about. It's just reaching more people, figuring out more ways to help, providing more unique services, different ways to help people. And I think that's what I'm most excited about. There's just so much more we can do. And that's why I go to shows, trade shows, and events and meet folks like your team at the Pozotron team, because all these connections can lead to great things, and that's what I'm excited about, all these new connections and new opportunities.
Fantastic. Finally, people want to get in touch with you. What's the best way to reach out? Where can they find you?
My name is my address. I try to make it pretty easy. It's GeorgeThe.Tech. GeorgeThe.Tech.com also does work, but GeorgeThe.Tech is the company website. There's a couple ways to reach out to us. We just have the sort of basic contact us form, but we also have a first timer area on the website. And if you go there, you can provide us quite a bit more detail about what your needs are, what your situation is, where you're starting from, what you already have. And then we have a member of our team named Rich, who actually reads every single one of those submissions and kind of decides what you need. He will either take on you and give you a hand to get you started, or if your needs are more specialized, you're like, I really need help with this software, I need help with this gear, then he'll direct that person off to a member of our team or our service that specifically meets their needs. And yeah, that's almost like it's almost like a concierge for support. So that's really awesome. And lastly, if you just have straight up emergency technical issues, like you have a client that you feel like if you don't get this thing working today, you could possibly lose a job or a big client, we actually have 24-hour, essentially 24-hour phone support. So if you call our phone number 424-226-8528, you will actually get a live human dispatch that takes your call, gets your info, and then we'll direct you to a list of we'll actually patch you right over to a list of our really most talented techs. And it's an incredible service. We have helped a lot of people through this platform, and it's the only thing I know of its kind in the world of audio and video production. So there's a lot of ways, but the bottom line is GeorgeThe.Tech, and we're GeorgeThe.Tech on all the socials. So you should never have any trouble finding us and reaching out.
Fantastic, George. Really appreciate your time today. Once again, this has been the Pozotron Spotlight Series with GeorgeThe.Tech. You can find us on Pozotron.com or on our Pozotron YouTube page. George, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. It's been a great time in joining you today.
Likewise. Take care.